My name is Joseph Mitsuaki Takami, Archbishop of Nagasaki, Japan.
The first question is, what would you say to the world that after more than 70 years has failed to abolish nuclear weapons?
Yeah, first of all, I would say the dropping of the atomic bombs was an inhuman act and never can be justified. We cannot justify the Pearl Harbor Pearl Harbor attack by which Japan declared war against the United States of America and the United Kingdom, nor all the inhuman crimes committed by Japan against people of Asian countries, as well as the war prisoners during the Second World War. In the same way, I don't believe that the dropping of the atomic bombs over Hiroshima and Nagasaki can be justified. It is not true to say that the atomic bombs were dropped to save 1 million US soldiers. The United States must have known the reality of the Japanese armed forces, which was totally weakened by them. According to a recent study, the number of American casualties should the direct invasion by the US force into the country occur would have been around 60,000. It is totally wrong to use means that could instantly kill hundreds and thousands of civilians in order to end the war. The majority of American people are Christians. However, how can Jesus Christ approve the mass killing because a country is in a war? The real reason behind the dropping of the 2 atomic bombs was to implement human experimentation in order to know how to continue improving the weapon. The atomic bombs used in Japan were 2 different kinds of bombs, as one was uranium and the other was plutonium. I also question if there was a certain racism on the part of the United States as a big country which couldn't allow a small Asian nation occupying and controlling countries in Asia. Secondly, the government of the United States should acknowledge that the dropping of the atomic bombs was unjustifiable and immoral, though the occupying force thoroughly investigated the tragic consequence of the atomic bombs. The General Headquarters controlled the information regarding the atomic bombs and gave an order to Henry Louis Stimson, Secretary of War, to prepare a thesis to justify the atomic bombs, the decision to use the atomic bomb. Thus, even to this day, there is unwavering belief among the American people that the decision to drop of the atomic bombs was just and correct. This shows that the United States of America, as a state, justified the use of immoral violence. After the dropping of the atomic bombs, people in the United States celebrated the success, and the mushroom cloud became a fashion by some time. Most countries, including Japan and the United States, hardly acknowledge the error committed by the state in the past. The United States continues this vicious circle of violence. I have an impression that the majority of American people are not aware of this reality. If the government of the United States and people would acknowledge the immorality of the atomic bombs, many other nations and peoples would follow the example and be against the use of the nuclear weapons. I do hope that this dream come true. Thirdly, the United States and Russia were competing in the production of nuclear weapons against the background of the Cold War. At present, we seem to be in a new situation of the Cold War. What is happening to the speeches given by President Obama in Prague 2009 and in Hiroshima 2016? The Non-Proliferation Treaty has been constantly ignored by the nuclear states, and the proliferation continues. In fact, the nuclear states should assume their grave responsibility and immediately initiate a talk towards the nuclear abolition. The USA and the USSR continued the nuclear race justified by the deterrence theory. The deterrence theory accelerated the production of more nuclear weapons. In this way, war industry began occupying the important part of the economy of the nations. This development negatively affected the efforts for nuclear reduction. Gaudimet Space says, whatever be the facts about this method of deterrence, men should be convinced that the arms race in which an already considerable number of countries are engaged is not a safe way to preserve a steady peace, nor is the so-called balance resulting from this race a sure and authentic peace. Number 81. We should also remember Pacem in Terris. Everyone, however, must realize that unless this process of disarmament be thoroughgoing and complete and reach men's very souls, it is impossible to stop the arms race or to reduce armaments or, and this is the main thing, ultimately to abolish them entirely. But this requires that the fundamental principles upon which peace is based in today's world be replaced by an altogether different one, namely the realization that true and lasting peace among nations cannot consist in the possession of an equal supply of armaments, but only in mutual trust. Number 113. Fourthly, the amount of money used to produce nuclear weapons should be diverted to solve the critical problems of hunger, poverty, refugees, and climate change.
Thank you. One more question. What concerns you the most about militarization of the Asian Pacific region?
First, China is expanding its military setup while North Korea continues with the nuclear testing, ignoring the threat of economic sanction, creating anxiety of people of Japan as well as South Korea. I'm concerned that China and North Korea seem to follow their own moral principles, which are different from the international ethical norm. Secondly, the government of Japan is using the threat from China and North Korea to justify military expansion, consolidation of security-related laws, and the revision of Article 9 of the Constitution. The administration of Mr. Abe obtained 2/3 of seats at both houses of representatives and councillors needed to revise the Constitution. It was reported on July 16 that the government of Mr. Abe would ask the administration of Mr. Obama to legalize the preemptive use of nuclear weapons since Japan was under the nuclear umbrella of the USA. This means that Japan is in favor of the preemptive nuclear attack. Japan should be committed to peace building by dialogue and pursue the end of arms race, which only increases tension among nations. Thirdly, the ideal situation for Asia is the creation of organization in Northeast Asia like European Union. Despite many obstacles, we should do our best to make appeal to governments and public opinion. There are several peace organizations that have been actively working for nuclear abolition and peace. They are mayors for peace with the membership in 161 countries and 7,095 cities. World Conference of Religions for Peace, Article 9 Association in Japan, Research Center for Nuclear Weapons Abolition of Nagasaki University, and so on. Recently, we began a campaign to make appeal to religions in Asia and to the United Nations. I was involved in preparing the Inter-Religious Declaration of Nuclear-Free Northeast Asia, together with Buddhist and Christian leaders. The campaign is supported by the World Conference of Religions for Peace. Thank you very much.